the so we are currently in week 3, and this is the main week. So after this week, all you have are just the final, the closing classes. So, and this week now you've done advanced data analysis, you've done macros and VBA, you've done Power Query, Power Pivot, and dashboard creation. And your weekly assessment, you have a more robust data set, and you are expected to create an interactive sales dashboard, which, if you had patiently watched all the videos that had been shared with us, you would have achieved this by now. So, and aside from that, to this evening's live class is to give you a deeper insight, or a summarized insight, let me put it that way, a summarized insight into some of the things you have learned in the course of the week. So for example, on day 17, based on the video we have put together for you, you'd have understood at least what macros and VBA is all about. There were 3 videos in day 17, and the third video was optional. But the first 2 are meant to give you an understanding, though you may not have the use for macros and VBA all the time, except you find yourself building certain template of financial models as you'll be taught this evening. So now going to week 4, what do you expect next week? What to expect is some advanced charting techniques. We'll also teach you how to share files directly from Microsoft Word environment. And then on day 25, we are looking at time management and negotiation skills. Most importantly, for you guys that want to make money out of these skills, as we have explained to you earlier, you need to understand negotiation skills, and beyond negotiation skills, time management is also key, because the reason why you need to become an expert is simply because you may have a request from one of your stakeholders or your direct report, and they don't have much time, so you need to understand how to manage your time and how to improve on that, in the course of time. So that's what we'll be looking at, as well as the general best practice principles around time management. And then we'll look at review and practice. So day 26 is just a recap of key concepts. And after that, we'll give you a guideline for your final project, your capstone project. So that project will come with a guide, and that guide is what you'll be looking at in day 27, so that, of course, the model we are giving you will be a very, very dirty model. So you need all your experience and personal research on Power Query, to clean it up, so that you can then move into every other aspect which will require you to do. So, and of course, you've done a lot of things. You've done interactive sales dashboard. You've done some other activities in the course of this month. But this capstone is to capture all, in fact, majority of the skills you have learned. Most importantly, what you are likely to see on the field at the highest, at this semi-highest level, maybe not highest, depending on how deep you will go in this journey of becoming an analyst. But at least at a peak, that this, at the end of the day, if you encounter that in maybe 2, 3, 6 months time, you will know that yes, AMG experience prepared me for this experience. You get, and you can also pick, this knowledge will also give you the opportunity to pick other data sets, play with them, finalize them, and add it to your portfolio. You understand? So that's that for loving sales model. And then we are giving extra days because we understand the rigorous activity that may come with this, and the fact that a lot of us here, we run a 9 to 5. I've received different feedback to people complaining it's overwhelming, it's this and that. I'm like, well, that's why we spread it across 30 days. So you learn something each day. Nevertheless, you have day 30 to also work on your capstone project. And what we have just added as bonus is how to set up your Microsoft Excel portfolio on free hosting platform. There are various platforms, and one that a lot of us don't look at is your Canva. Canva has a free website. If you check my LinkedIn profile today, there is what I put there as impacts and progress. I did that. Of course, I had a paid plan when I did it, but you can do something more amazing than that, even with a free version of Canva. So you can publish a website on Canva, put on your portfolio, upload it. It has embedded structure. So you can use YouTube and all that. So we'll teach you. You can use YouTube to record 5 minutes videos, and then you plant it and embed it on a Canva site and write, the commentaries around that project. And before you know it, you have about 9 to 10 pages of what you can do. So when you get a remote job or foreign job or local job or any job or maybe a side gig and someone wants to see what you have been able to accomplish, it's easier for you. You understand? And the earlier the better, because some of us, we are very busy on our 9 to 5 because of the current roles we are. And, most of your projects are within the company. And it's because of confidentiality, you can't upload that as a portfolio work. But we've done several analysis, several dashboards, several reporting, where you can't upload them because they are for companies. You are doing it as your service in an organization. But if you are in here now, maybe your work is not that, it is the best time for you to invest 2-3 hours playing around data set, doing report, even though you are not presenting it to anybody, but you always have it back there and upload to your portfolio so someone in the future may make reference to it and and it will get you offers. So lastly, leveraging AMG community and web platform for personal growth. So next year, Q1, we are launching a web platform which will also serve the whole community and as many of us that would have become an alumni of some of our initiatives. So, but how can you even leverage presently? You can leverage. There are opportunities to leverage, and that's what we'll be doing in the extra days we have. So, guys, there's so much ahead, and I don't want you to give up. I know some of us are already tired. It's not been easy, but I don't want you guys to give up. If you're in week 1 or you are still in week 2, you've not even started week 3, yes, you have a lot to cover, but I encourage you to do the needful, like do your best, because only those who do this capstone project and submit it will get certified. As I said, we're only adding that certificate because of formality's sake. When it comes to Microsoft Excel, you don't need certificates. You don't. What you need is your skill. I am an advanced Excel user. The only certificate I have, of course, I've done different Excel courses online, on YouTube, but the main official is maybe the one I did in 2017, AJ Silicon, 5 days Microsoft Excel training that I attended. And I tell you, I did not use 20% of that skill until the recent years because I never had need for it. So I forgot a lot of it. So it's not the certificate majorly, but what you know, what you're able to deploy. And that's why instead of you focusing on certificate, focus on acquiring these skills and build your portfolio. That is your certificate. However, for that formality's sake, only those who do the capstone project and submit it will get that certification, and it will be verifiable. We've done it for our students in the past. So that's just that about that. I have my friend in the house, and I'm so excited he's here with us. Is someone I celebrate, like I value him so much as a friend. He was a former colleague, and we are still professional colleagues. And he's here to take us through macros, VBA, as well as DAX function. And for some of us that will join the Marathon Mastery Program that is launching next month, he will also be one of the key facilitator for that experience. This is someone that knows more than 6 programming languages. That's amazing. It's one of the things I envy him about. Like, he started coding right from his secondary school. And right now, he can name all the possible programming language from Python, to R languages, and all of these programming languages is hands-on on all of these skills. So when it comes to Excel, when it comes to DAX function, your M languages, and all these other languages within Excel, Power BI family, and even SQL Server is very sound. So he's taking us through this within 2 hours. You can't learn all of macros and VBA and DAX function in 2 hours, but he's going to give us a refresher for those of us that have done week 3, as well as a solid foundation for us to learn further in preparation for what is ahead of us. So please avoid distractions, put your phone on silence, and we'll have time to ask questions as well. So Rudolph, please confirm you can hear me. He's joining us from Senegal. I got it this time around, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Fantastic. Yeah. So he's joining us from Senegal, and so he's here to create value and also impact us. So Rudolph, Confirm you should be able to share your screen. You are a co-host already.
All right, no
Mm.
problem.
So you have the floor. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank
Yeah.
you, everyone, and I'm really pleased to be here today to share a bit about what I know on Excel. And so the today's subject is about VBA macros, and we're gonna add a bit of DAX on it. So the course today is split it in two parts. The first part is related to VBA and macros, and the second part will be on DAX function. So we're gonna see how to upload data, how to write some DAX function, and also some measures. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So I've prepared a PowerPoint so that maybe after the course you can be able to go through it and also yeah, read it. So this course will be about the basics. So we need the basis to be able to build big model after ends. So we're gonna go on the basis, only on the basis, get some overview, and if you have after that, if you have some questions on other things that we did not touch, that we will not touch, you can ask those questions. But this course will be we will be focused more on the basis, how you open, let's say you open the developer tab on VBA, and how also you make appear the Power Pivot tab to write your DAX measures, and yeah, your DAX measure, and create your column using DAX. So confirm you can see my screen. Yes.
Yes, from here we can.
All
Can
right.
the
Yeah, we
participants
can. We
confirm as
can.
well?
Okay, great. So yeah, as I said,
Okay.
this is an introduction to macros, VBA, and DAX in Microsoft Excel. Why we've precised that? Because you can use VBA in PowerPoint, also in Words. You can use DAX in Power BI. So yeah, today's the focus is only on Excel. But what you need to know is like what we will use as function in DAX. You can use the same function in Power BI. What we will write as code, or what we will share today, you can use the same function in Power BI. Just the environment will be different, but the function, the rule to use those functions will be the same. So the first part will be about Excel macros and VBA. So the first point is an introduction where we're gonna give some definition about what is the macro, what is VBA. The second point will be on setting up Excel for VBA, because you need to enable the developer tab before using a VBA editor and things like that. So the second part will be dedicated to how we do that. The third part will be how we record and run macros. The fourth part will be an introduction to VBA coding, where we will see the basic structure and also some control. And the last part will be on user-defined functions. We'll be creating functions. So I will show how to create a function and how to call that function in an Excel file, in an Excel cell. So, and after that, we will go to the last part, will be Q&A. But if you don't understand something, why I'm in any part, you can stop me and yeah, ask a question. But there will be the last part will be dedicated to the Q&A section on what we will see. So the first part, introduction. So basically, what is a macro? What is VBA? So here is the definition. So a macro is just a set of recorded or written instruction, automated and repetitive tasks. So let's after that after you can read that. So a macro is, for instance, when you want to do a task on Excel. Let me open my Excel so that you can understand, and you, because here you need to understand what is and what is the purpose of that. If you understand what is the purpose of that, about the definition, you can recall it later. But if you understand what is the purpose and where you can use it, that's it. This is what we want you to understand right now. So for the definition, you can find that on Google, or you can read the thing later. So what is the macro? A macro is just simple. For instance, if I do a task manually here, one, let's say I do 1 plus 1 equal 2. So if I use a macro to do that task automatically for me, I will record, I will put Excel on a recording section so that Excel will do what? Excel will register uh, the task that I'm just doing, and it will translate that task into a code. And this code, now after it will translate that task into a code, it will automate that task for me, so that after that I won't need to do that task manually again. I will just press a button so that that button will generate the result that I need. So a macro is just a record for a task that I do, and a macro help you to what to do what to automate that task. That's it for the definition and the purpose of a macro. So what I'm when I'm doing something on Excel, I just click on the macro to record that task. Excel will record, translate that into a code, which is VBA, and automate that for me. So let's go to the second point, which is what is VBA. So I just said VBA. So macro is written in VBA. So when you record the section, it will translate your task into a code. So let's say, as the example that I showed, I do 1 plus 1. I did it manually. But when I press on the macro, what it will do, it will automate that task and translate that task into a language that Excel understands. And this language that Excel understands is called VBA. VBA is just a short for Visual Basic for Application. So Visual Basic for Application is just a language that we use in Microsoft to automate tasks, to create function, and to create, to create function, to create user, to create everything that you want to do in Excel. It's an object-oriented language, which means what? Which means it manipulates objects in Excel. I'm talking about objects by talking about by saying what? By saying cell, range, workbook. Yeah, those are objects that you can manipulate using VBA. So that's it for the definition of VBA. VBA is just the language that you use, or that you use when you want to automate something using a macro in Excel. So this is for the introduction between for those two subject, macro and VBA. Let's go to the second point. So the second point is the setting up of VBA. So the setting up of VBA, how you set up your VBA. So when you open to do that, or when do you start using VBA in Excel? Normally, when you open your Excel sheet and you did not enable a developer in your Excel yet, what you have to do is to come in the file right here, and after that, what you do is come down here to the options side. You come to the option side, and after that, you have to come to customize ribbon. So when you come to customize ribbon, you come right here. So you see here the customize when so here is like you are customizing your ribbon. So you will enable what we call the developer tab. So let's say that I don't have the developer tab yet. So you see up here, you don't see the developer tab appears. So if you want to enable it, you come to the file option, you come to customize ribbon, and you enable developer tab. And when I click OK, the developer tab will appear right here. So when the developer tab appears, now we have all the different options that the developer tab give us: Visual Basic, macros, recording, everything right here. So we'll go through that then. So this is how you enable the developer tab on your Excel workbook, on your Excel basically. Sorry. So after enabling the developer tab in your Excel, we go now to let's go now to the VBA editor. So we go to the VBA editor. So the VBA editor has three parts, three main parts. Let's put it that way. Three main parts, not only three parts, but main parts. So the first part is called, the first part that you can see here is called the code window. Is where you will write your code right here. So when you will open the VBA editor, you will see those parts in your VBA editor. So the first part is the code window. So this code window is just where you write your code. The second part right here is the project explorer. So the project explorer will show you all your workbook that are opened, all your modules, all your sheets that are within your workbook, and also if you've created what we call user form, you will see those there. So it's just yeah, to explore what is within your let's say what is within the projects that you are doing. So after that, the third part is the property part. So the property window, so-called the property windows. So the third part. So for the property windows, it just allows you to view the property of the object that you've selected, and also edit the property of that object. As I said, in Excel, VBA is an object-oriented language. Is used to manipulate objects, and what we call object are worksheets, module, user forms. Basically, worksheet, within that worksheet you will see range, you will see cells. So basically that's it for the second part, which is the setting up of Excel for VBA. After that, now let's do an example of how we record and how we run a macro. So basically, let's see how the macro works. So as I said, when you open your Excel and you enable the Excel, you enable the developer tab right here. Now let's do an example for a macro. So let's say that I want to record a task and to automate it. I come here, you see there is this which says record macro. So if I click OK, it will tell me which name do I want to give to that macro. So let's say we leave it. Let's say we say addition. Addition. Okay. And after that, it tells me which shortcuts do you want to use to call that macro. If I want, I create a shortcut for my macro so that I can call my macro using that shortcut. So let's say that it is control, and let's say we say control M. So it created, I mean, it added a shift, because if it is control plus M is already a shortcut used by Excel. So if I have used a, let's say, a letter that wasn't used before by Excel as a shortcut, it will just keep the control, but it created the shift because it's already, I mean, control plus M, it's already a shortcut. So now our shortcut is control plus shift plus M for the macro that we're gonna register. So let's say we're gonna record, sorry. So let's say now I click OK. So now let's record the task that I want to do. Let's say that I want to do, let's say I want to do an addition, as I said. Let's see, 10, I put 10 here, I put 20 here, and let's say I put equal this cell plus this cell. And after that, I will come here, let's say that I don't know, I will put it on bold, I'll put the color to green, that's it. If I'm done, I say stop recording. So when I stop recording, normally my script should be recorded. So now, if I want to call, let's say, I want to call my, I want to see the code now. I should go to the Visual Basic uh, Explorer or Visual Basic Code to see the macro. So where do I go to do that? I come here to the Visual Basic tab, and let's see. This is basically the module that I just recorded, and this is what the record shows. It shows that I put a 10, I put a 20. After that, I've done an addition. After that, so this is what the code says basically. So let's say, for instance, I delete that, and now as my task is already is automated, now I want to call it. So let's use the shortcut for the first try. So which is Control Shift M. You see what happened? When I use the shortcuts, it make my calculation appear. Basically, this is what it does. So after that, let's say that I want to edit the formula. Instead of 20, let's say I want it to be 40. I clear that, and let's say now, you see, now it's 40. You see the addition. So basically, this is how it works. So this is when we use the shortcut. We can create a button. We can create a button to automate that also. To create a button, we will come here, and we will insert. We can use this from the developer tab. So let's say that we add the button right here, and to that button, so it's a click button. So to that button, we need to add the module to that button. So which is what? Which is the addition that we want to add to that button. So you need to add the code that you have created to the button, so that when you click to that button, it will run the code that you have in your macro. So our code was named, our macro was named, what was named addition. So I select addition to put that in my button. So now let me delete that. So instead of using the shortcut, let me click on the button to see what happened. So when I click on the button, you see it appears directly. So that's it. So basically, this is the basis. This is how we use a macro. We record a task that we are using or that we are doing, and after that we can either we can put a shortcut to call that macro, and we can also put that macro in the button so that we have that button in an Excel sheet, and whenever we want to run that macro, we can click just on the button, and this task will be run. And also what you saw is like we've also edited the formula. Let's say we also edited the code so that instead of the 20, we put 40. So basically, that's it. And if we don't want, I mean, you can edit the formula, basically. So this is how a macro work. This is how we record a macro, basically. So this is for this the third point, which is recording and running macros. So I showed you uh, the insert for controls. So in that insert we have many controls. We have many controls for. We have a command command button. We have combo box. We have list box. We have option button. So all those forms control have their own purpose. So you saw that we've used button and we address the macro to that button. You can have what we call a list box. You can have what we call a combo box. So depending on the project that you are doing, you will either use or you can combine both. So for future section, session we will go deep in that. But today is just an overview and just let you know that those things exist in Excel. After that, we after for next sessions we'll go deep in that in those forms and use them for a project. So the fourth point is introduction to VBA coding. So basically, we will go and do the basics in terms of coding in VBA. So what we will see first, we'll see the control. We will see the control structures, and we will see also the basics functions. So we will see the, for the first point, we will see the if statement. The second point, we will see the while loop. The third point, we will see the fourth loop, the for loop. So basically the if statement is just used for conditional logic. So as I said, we won't go to the definition. We want to know what is the purpose. We want to know when to use them and how to use them. So for the definition, you will read it later, or you can read it later. So basically, let's go for the if statement right here. So the if statement is the same, follow the same logic that like what you do in an Excel cell. So basically, if I use an if statement here, what does that say? It say what? It say I need to put the logical test. After that, will if that logical test is true, it will put the value that I want for true. If that logical text is false, it will put the value that I want for false. So basically, an if statement will do what? Will test a logical test that I put and see if that logical test is true. And if that logical test is true, it will generate a value. If that logical test is false, it will generate another value. So it means what? It means like, let's say we have 1 and 2, and our logical test will see if my value is let's say my value is 10. So this is my logical test. Let's say logical test right here. Okay, this is my logical test. And what the if statement will do is will it the if statement will see what? Will see, okay, let me say my logical test assume that if my variable is 10, that we is 10, then generate That's for the true. And if it is false, generate that. Do you get it? Basically, my logical test will see if my value or if my test is equal to the 10 that is here. True will be the value for 1, and false will generate a value for 2. Basically, that's it. So let's say if that equal to 10, if not, so you see, this is the result that I get because the value that I test for my logical test is 10 already. But if I change that, that value is no more 10. So it will be what? It will be false. And for the false, generate 2. This is basically how the if statement works. So now let's see it in practice when we write an let's see it in an VBA code, basically. Let's see that in VBA. So, okay, this is another form. This is for the while loop. Just okay. Okay, let me create. So to write or to create your code window, you will have to come here, up here, and you have that which we call the module. So when I click on module, it will open a new window where I can write my code, basically like that. So uh, we saw the if statement. So we will see something again, and after that we will write the code. After the if statement or after the different statement, okay, I should have talked about something first before coming to the if statement. But yeah, no worry. So I should have talked about this point first. So yeah, first you write your code in something that we call in VBA the sub for short, which is for long, which is the subroutine. So the subroutine is the block in which you will write your code. So VBA understands something, and to write your code, you have to write your code in a block. So that block, we have multiple block. We have for the function, we have also for the subroutine. So to write our if statement, we will use for the subroutine. So to write a code in Excel or to write a VBA code, this is how we do it. Subroutine, you name your module or your sub or your macro. So you need to name it. So to name my macro, let's say that I call my macro let's say statement. I call my macro statement. You have, so when I create my subroutine, this is what appear at the end. So at the end, we have this end subroutine to tell us what? To tell us that this block ends here. So if I call this macro, which is a name statement, only the codes that are within that block be called. I can create another subroutine below. You will see what will happen. When I create another subroutine below, you see that it will start here and it will end here. And you see Excel creates a line to separate this subroutine to this subroutine. But I need to change the name because if I run that now, Excel will tell me that there is a confusion between those. So I need to change the name for the second subroutine. Maybe I need to call it like yeah, statement. Let's say statement one right here. So now let's write a simple code. As I said, VBA is an object-oriented language, which means what? Which means when you write a code, you should either workbook either uh, so fit to manipulate. So let's manipulate uh, out. So I will explain all of that. I mean, all of those in a few seconds. Take care as a teacher. All right. So basically, that this is a code. As I already told you, this is a subroutine. If I run that code, it should generate something. So this code is a for loop, but to that for loop we'll add what we saw. We'll add an if statement. Just yeah, we'll add an if statement to that for loop. So I will add the if statement right here. If uh, cell, I will explain also the different cells. So we'll do this. We'll use the same logic, right? We'll use the same logic. So first we'll use let's say we'll use the same logic to run the macro. Uh, for the row, we'll use this is for the row and I'll explain that to you in a few minutes. I should have okay, sorry. Okay, let me put that here. What I've told X or what I've written just is just if if this value is equal to 20, then give me a message which is true. If not, give me that message which is false. So let's run that macro and see what happened. So to run that macro, I click here. I click that button. Run. Okay, I should. And oh, sorry. Okay. So you see what is here. It's true because the value. It's true because the value which is in that cell, this is the cell that I've selected in my code. It's cell for the row, it's row 4, and for the column, it's column 15. So I said to within my code what? I said within my code, check the value which in that cell, and if that value is equal to 20, give me as a message, give me true as a message. If that value is not equal to 20, give me false. If not, give me false. This is what I've just written right here. I've just written if the value which is in the cell for row 4 and column 15 is equal to 20, then give me true. If that is not true, if that is not the case, give me false. Then that's it. So if I change that to 10, now let's see what happened. You see the message that comes here. The message that comes here is false because the value that is here is 20. But in my code, I said that if the value which is in the cell is 10, but the value is not 10, so the message will be false. Basically, that is, I just replicate that if formula in VBA. Basically, this is what I've done. The if formula that you use in your Excel file, in your Excel cells, this is what I've just written here. But to make it work, you have to put it in that block, which is the subroutine, or it can be also a function. But we will see the difference between a subroutine and a function. So after that, we will see also, we'll have other sessions to talk about in depth how to manipulate cells, how to manipulate range, and also what is message box and all of that. But here, what you have to understand is how we've used that if, if we translate the if function into VBA code. So the next point will be about the while and the for loop. And after that, we'll basically see also, I will combine. I will combine the control for the while loop, for the for loop, the message box that we saw, the learn, the input box, and also all of those. You can read all of those points, but those are basically VBA functions that you can see how to use them, how to use on Google or on any platform that you want. But we will see just a few. I will explain how the message box works as we already use it, and also I will explain how to use the for loop and also the while loop. So those are the basics in VBA, basically. So let me delete that. Let me delete that, and let's say we have okay. Let's delete that. Okay. So now let's go to the for loop, and also let us understand what is a variable, what is dimension, and what is dimension, what is variable. So basically, when you want to write a VBA code, and when you want to use variable, you have what we call variable are just memory to stock value. So variable are just memory that will stock some values. So, and in VBA, this is how we declare variable. We use dim, which is a short for dimension, and we name that variable. So here, my variable that I use is I, and I want to define that variable. So I want to use, I want to use to define that variable for a certain data type. So this variable, we have multiple data type in VBA. So we have integer. So integer we have integer, we have float, we have date time. So in regard to what you will say your variable will be, your variable should stock that type of data. So if I say my variable here G is a date, the value that my variable should stock should be date. If that is not date, there will be an error. So if I say my variable stock integer, the value that my variable should stock should be integer. Do you understand? So this is how variable work, and in VBA, this is how we declare variable basically. So let's say we want to write a basic for loop. So what I will do, I will just clear that and we'll do it together. So I want to write a for loop. A for loop is just, a for loop is just a loop that will say what? That will say, okay, I will run the code within that loop as long as we are still in the range of that loop. Which means what? Which means if my loop is within a range of 1 to 10, the loop, the code within my loop will be run until we get out of that 10. Basically, this is how you should understand how the for loop work. So now let's write it. So to write a for loop, you have to write to write the function for, and after that for loop you should also tell your for loop that you have, as it is a loop, you have to go like that in circle until we end that loop and we get out from that loop. So now let's say for I, which is our variable, for I equal to 1 to 10, do that. So this is basically how you can read that. I said to my code, for I equal to 1 to 10. In that for loop. So I will write that code now. Let's say I want the code to be I equal 1, I plus 1, and next I. Let's see that like that. And now I will as I want to see the message that that code will generate. As I said, VBA is an object-oriented code. So I either can say, okay, the output can be in my cell or can be shown as a message. So now let's see how we can use message box. So message box are just a user form that will pop up a message. So message box, and the message that I want to show is the output of my variable. So let's say that my message will be output out of what? Of I. This is what I want to see, the output of I. So let's run that now and see what happened. When I run that, you see what happened. The first output is 2, right? If I click OK, second output will be 4, 6, 8, 10, done. Why? Because we said that the for loop should be within the range of 1 to 10. And why did it start by 2, the calculation? Because we said that the first value for our I was 1, right? This is why it started by 2. So basically what I've done is I said, okay, the first value that our I will take is 1, right? The 1 come here. So the first output will be 1 plus 1, and that 1 will be stored in that I variable. So after that, pop out a message. So the message will be the value of that I. So if I change the variable to G, and I create another variable which is that J, and I say okay as integer so that you can understand better, and I put output as G, let's say now I right here. Let me run now the macro. So basic question, if I change the first value to 0, what will be the first output? Someone to answer. What will be the first output that will be generated? If you can hear me, tell me please. What will be the first output that will be generated? So I guess I'll ask someone like like that. So Jerry, can you answer to that question? All right, Desmond, can you answer the first output generated by the code for the for loop? If we say that the for loop goes to 0 to 10, what will be the message that will pop out as
I
output?
guess you start from 1.
Why will it start for 1 as output?
Because J plus 1, I think J is equals to I plus 1. So
Yes. J equal to I plus 1. So the first value of I will be 0. So if the first value that I will take is 0, so I plus 1, which means 0 plus 1 will be 0. So the first output will be 1. And after that, what will be the second output? I mean, what will be the second value? Anyone to answer to that question? What will be the second output? Okay, I will answer.
The second output should be 2.
Second output, yeah, should be 2. Why? Because as I said, I will take the value within that range. So if I take as first value 0 that you put here, so we already run the first output. So after that, it will come out, it will come again to take the second value. The second value is 1. So 1 plus 1 will be 2. So the second output will be 2. And first output is 1. So let me, second output is 2. Third output is 3. So it's just an addition until, and that's it. So when this range is over, the for loop is over. So this is how we use the message box. So what I've done is just I've used a message box. A message box. I've used a message box to pop out my output. But I can also use, I can also put my output in a cell. So let's put the output in a cell now. So let's say, so let's put that in the first cell. So this cell function right here, the first that you should put is the row, and the second is the column. So let's say that the first row should be our first I, right? Let's say our I, and we'll put the value in the first column of our Excel sheet. Point value. This how we this is how we manipulate range cells in Excel. Basically, this is how we do it. And what we want to put in that is our same output, which is J, right? And let's say that, yeah, okay. And for now, let's say we start by 1. Let's say we start by 1. Let's see what happens if we do that. Will it work? I don't think so. Why? Because this is not well written. We should have an S next to that. Yes. Okay. So it's cells, not cell. So now I will run the macro to see. When I run the macro, you see nothing happen here. No message pop up because I just put my value in cell. So the object here is a cell. Those are the results you see right here. So let me basically clear that button, and let me run that macro again. If I run it, you see the value out here. So basically, this is how we manipulate a cell, an Excel sheet. I've used message box to manipulate a user form. I've used cells to manipulate a cell. But there is many things. This is how we use a cell. First, so basically for the for loop, and also we saw the message box. So let's go now to the, let's say, I guess we won't go to the while loop because we won't I guess we won't waste so much time. As I said, it's an overview, and if you want to do a course dedicated only to how to write it in VBA, we saw how we put that in block, and how also and how we put that in a block, how we define a variable by assigning a data type to that variable, and we saw how we can manipulate a cell. We saw how we can basically we can basically make it pop out using a user form by using the message box. So after that, we have also what we call a while loop. So a while loop is just a loop that will continue until the condition that we give to that while loop is true. Let me show you an example. I want to write a code for that. I will just show you a code that I've already written for the while loop. So this is how the while loop works. Right here, we have defined the variable, which is counter. So this while loop works as a countdown. And the first value that I assign to my counter is 10. So what I've said, basically, how to read that code is basically while counter is more than 0, execute the code within that counter. So until the counter variable is more than 0, this code will be executed. And when the counter will be equal or less than 0, that while loop will stop. I mean, it will go out now. Do you understand? Basically, this is how we work with while loop. It's different from the for loop. Okay, now let's see some function in VBA. 7 function in VBA. So we already saw the message box. So the message box basically display a message in a box, and that box is just a user form that we manipulate using VBA. After that, we have another function which is input box. So input box will be like a box that will take what you want to use as inputs. That's it. So it's a prompt for user inputs. After that, we have now function. So now is just a date function. Date function to just give the current date. So this is a function that is used also that you can use in VBA. We have range. So if you don't want, so what we've used to manipulate the cell, we've used the function called cells. But we have another function called range that can manipulate the range. So it can manipulate. I mean, it can manipulate the workbook. As I said, VBA. I will repeat it again. VBA is an object oriented language to manipulate objects, and a worksheet, an Excel worksheet, is defined as an object in regard to VBA. So you can manipulate a range, a cell using VBA. After that, we have len function, which return the length of a string. We have UCase. UCase just converts the text in uppercase. We have L case, which means lowercase. VB to manipulate also. So basically, I just show you some function. You can go to you can use ChatGPT or Google to see how you can write using input box, using len. But what I want you to know is that those functions exist in VBA and what those functions are meant for. That's it. So this is for the fourth point, which is introduction to VBA coding. So The last point will be user in the section of macro and the last point will be user defined functions, short for U. The short is UDF. What is UDF? UDF is just a custom function. It's just a custom function. So let's say, as I said, the definition, you can go back to that. But if I explain you that in practice, you will understand how to use it, and that's it. This is how what I want you to do. Get the basis, know how to use it, and that's it. So when I write sum, see that a function pops up, right? Sum. That's sum function. So this sum function has been already integrated to Excel. It has been already created. So this is why when you write equal sum, you see that sum function. If I sum up some cell, or some cell, I will definitely get a result. I will definitely get a result because this sum function will sum cells. This is what this function is meant for. But you can also, using VBA, create your custom function. This is what we call UDF. UDF is user defined function. You are the user and you want to create your own function that doesn't exist in Excel. Let's say that we have a function that doesn't exist in Excel, but in your day-to-day work, like let's say you are an accountant, and you need a formula that calculates taxes, for instance, but you don't have that formula in Excel, but you know how to write code in VBA. So you can create your own function in VBA, so that whenever you will open your notebook and put that code in your macro site, whenever you will call that code in your VBA, I mean in your cell, it will pop up like the sum if, because you already customize your function. So let's create a function. Let's define a function. We won't do too much. We'll create a sum function. So this is what we will do. We'll create a sum function. So I already created that function right here. I created a sum function right here. So I will explain that function. So I created a sum function. So I call my function add numbers, and my function needs to have parameter, because parameters, or a parameter, because what you have when you click a sum function, when I click here sum, you see the thing that are within my bracket I call parameters. So you need to put some parameter within that function to make it work. So when you customize your function, you need also to define some parameters, right? So those, so define as a, let's say, okay, let me delete that so that you understand better. All right. Okay. So I have created my function like that, and my parameter are A and B, right? But what you need to understand also, A and B are also variables that will take what? That will take values. So you need to address a certain data type to that variable, so that if the value that you put in that variable is not the correct data type, there will be an error. This is the same thing when you use a sum formula. If you, let's say that I put U right here and I put 10, and I want to use a sum if formula, a sum formula. you see, the only thing that will pop out is the 10, but the u won't be taken into account. But let me do something. Let me do something instead of using some if. I want you to see. Yeah, let me do that like that. You see, there is value error. Why? Because I cannot sum an integer and a text. It's not possible. So when you create a function, you need also to define the data type that your variable will take. So this is what we define right here in our function. So let's say that I said my first variable or parameter is defined as an integer, like that, as an integer. I define my second variable also as an integer. This is how I can also define, instead of using dimension that we saw, dim. You can directly define your variable within the parameter side right here when you define when you create a function. And after that, I will also define my function as a integer also, which means, so this is basically I've created the function. And when you create a function, you see that instead of the block, check the name for the block. We saw the subroutine, but here when you create a function, the block should be function, the name of your function, as what we have here, the different parameter if you have parameter, and you see the hand will be hand function. This is just to make a precision also. It's different from the subroutine. It's not subroutine. Here it's a function. So what you should call it, function and end function right here. So now let's call our function. So we call our function add numbers, right? So we've created our function. Now let me call my function. I mean let me do a simple calculation using my function. I will put equal. I know the name of my function, which is add numbers. You see, when I write add, you see my function pop up like an Excel. I mean, like a function that is already in Excel. But this is a function that I've created. I've customized it for me. Now, my function has two parameters, right? A and B. So 10, I put as A 10 and as B 20. If I close the bracket, what will be the result? Let's see. 30, right? Because this is what I've done. I just create a function that do addition. The first parameter is A, the second parameter is B. That's it. So the 10 plus the 20. This is simple. So to put it in simple, this is how we create function Excel. And this is how you call your in any cell or any sheet of that workbook, I can call my function. If I come here and I click add, this is my function that I call. The first parameter, let's say I put 100, let's say 1000. I put 200. If I close the bracket, this is the result. So you can customize, basically you can customize your function. This is what a user defined function means. And this is how we use it to create and define function. So in the next session, we'll go to the project and see a more complex function, but this is the basis of that. So I guess this is that's it for the first Q&A. I mean, the first part. Is there any question in regard to what we saw? Yeah, any question in regard to what we saw? Guys, don't be shy. You can ask question.
Hi,
So if
Rodolph.
you it's not yeah, hi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
hi
you so
Ben.
much. So there's this question I want to ask. So
Yeah, go
let's
ahead.
say that function that we create that was created earlier,
Yes.
you want to pick cells, existing cells, instead of referencing an hard-coded number, imputed numbers. Will it still work?
Yes. Yeah, it will work. It
Okay.
let's say for instance, like my my first let's say instead of using I mean my A, let's say that I will define cells already. Let's say that I will define cell instead of using A and B like that. But to do that, you have to. I mean, you have to change the way the function looks like now. So let's say I want. Let's take an example of that. So basically, what you are asking is like instead of picking any cell or instead of working in any cell, I define in my function some cell in which that function will work already. This is what you ask,
Yeah, yeah,
Daniel.
it
How
touches that as well. So what I'm actually
yes.
saying is, for
Okay.
example, if I
Yeah.
have a data, I don't want to use the regular sum function. I'm just thinking this across various user purposes for the general audience. So, for example,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
For example, in row B2 now,
Yes.
maybe I have 100, and row C, I have 200, and I want to use your function to add row B2 and row C2 together.
Okay. I see.
You get?
I see. Yeah, I get it
So
now.
will
I
it
get it.
still work if I don't put in the
Okay.
numbers in the function?
Yes. Yes. It will work. Now, yeah, I get it properly now. I guess I did not. I
Exactly.
just click here
Yeah.
and click here.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
it.
Fantastic. That's what I want
Okay,
to
okay. Now
ask.
I get it because I was thinking like you want to address the function only for a certain particular cell, not for
So,
all the.
okay. Okay.
Okay, okay,
No.
okay,
I
okay.
know it
Now
can also work like
I
that. You just have
understand.
to code it for that.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. So yeah,
So
is
I
there
think,
another question?
do you have any other question? Because we still have an introduction to DAX function. We'll do more of this when we get to
Yes.
the
The
other session. So do you have any other question?
30 minutes, 30
Because,
minutes left for the second part.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, 30 or 40 minutes, but it's enough. We can cover that
Okay.
as it's just an introduction. So basically, what you need to recall yourself, or the key point here, is just I mean, how you make the developer tab appear. Uh, you have it already, but what you basically have to understand is how we write a code in DAX, what how we can write a function. Sorry, I said in DAX. I'm already in DAX in VBA, right? And what are the basics? We saw how to use a for loop. We saw how to use an if statement. We saw how to use a while loop. Basically, those three control structure will be the one that you will model depending on the project that you have. And there are some other functions that you can have in Excel, in VBA. There are more functions, but those functions you can learn them later. We saw, and apart from those functions that I've listed here, apart from those 7 functions, you have other functions that we cannot cover everything, but you will encounter them when you will be on a project, where when you will be on a project, you will use those small scripts or those small code that you've written. You will combine to make a big one. Do you understand what I mean? So you see that we've written a simple function right here, or a simple code, but this is the basics. But this is how we write it. This is the logic. What I want you to understand is to understand the logic. After you understand the logic, you can model that function to make it big. Whatever you want, you can do it right here. Let's say, for instance, we want to add something. You can do it. You can model it. But you need to have the basis. You need to know how it works, how you can read it. So this is what we saw for the for loop. This is what we saw for the while loop. This is what we saw for the if statement. The if statement, we just stuck between if and else. But there is if, there is else if, and there is else and again. So this is, I mean, it's not that advanced, but we don't have much time to cover that. But I just show you the basics for that. How you can read small function, small code, how you open, how you can create the button, how you can address that a macro to a button, how you can record a macro. So if there is no question, we're gonna go to the next part, which is DAX in Excel. So part 2, DAX in Excel. So what you need to understand in Excel is that we have now in Excel 365 they added Python, but basically we have 3 languages in Excel. Let's put it like that. We have 3 languages. Programming language. We have 3 programming language in Excel. We have M query to manipulate the query. We have VBA to manipulate objects, and we have DAX to do all the modeling in terms of data modeling. VBA can do that also, but we prefer using VBA to manipulate objects and create application. This is why it's called VBA is called Visual Basic for Application, because we can use VBA to create an app. I will show you maybe in our next sessions. I will show you some apps, some project that I work on. I will show you some apps. But notice that VBA can help you create and create an app, an ERP, whatever you want. I mean, you have some limit, but you can create some app with using VBA in Excel. So the third language is DAX, as I said. So basically what we'll see in DAX is the introduction, which is the first point. The second point will be we'll show how we set up Power Pivots. After that, we will see the basics, syntax, and functions in DAX. After, we will see the difference. I mean, we'll compare measures and calculated columns in DAX. And after that, the last part will be how understanding the DAX context, basically. But for the DAX side, it will be more, let's say, we'll see more codes. I hope, we'll see more code, and we'll do a small project for the DAX part so that you understand. So we'll go quick on the definition and also the setting up. We'll directly go to the third, fourth, and the fifth parts directly. For the definition and introduction, we'll go quick on that. So for the introduction, DAX just stands for data analysis expressions, which means what? Which means it's a language to analyze, to work on data. So DAX, you can use DAX in in Excel, but you can also use it in Power BI and other Microsoft tools for data modeling and data analysis. Mainly, DAX is used for that. Data modeling, data analysis, mainly. In Excel, to have DAX in Excel or to use DAX in Excel, you have to enable Power Pivot tab. You have to enable that. I will show you how to do it. So basically, where that is used, I already said it. We have it here. Second point, the setting up of Power Pivot. So for the different step, you can read that later. We will do it practically speaking. Let me close my VBA. All right. So let's assume that you don't have a Power Pivot right here. Me, I already have it here, and you need to understand that there are some. Power Pivot is not available in all the version of Excel. I already said it's only available in Excel 2013 onwards, Excel 2016, and also Microsoft Office 365. So yeah, not in all the version of Excel, but I've just listed few where you can find Power Pivot here. So to enable Power Pivot like what I have here, you see up here we have Power Pivot. To enable it, to make it appear like what we've done for the developer tab in the VBA section, what I will do is come to the file right here, come to options right here, and after that I come to add-ins right here. So when I come to add-ins, normally I should have all my add-ins here, all my add-ins that I have in my Excel here, the lists. I should have all of them here. And normally, if Power Pivot is not enabled yet, you should have it somewhere here. So if you want it to appear here, you have to select your Power Pivot like that. So I have already my Power Pivot here. So I'm just doing an example on this one. But let's say you don't have Power Pivot. You have to select your Power Pivot like that. So this is Microsoft Power Pivot for Excel, right? So you see the type. The type is come add in, right? So you come down here, manage. You have to select come add in like that, because it refers to the type of Power for Power Pivot. And when you select that, you click on go. And when you click on go, it will appear like that. And when it will appear like that, normally you should enable it like that. So let's say, for example, I want to enable Excel. Yeah, it's not live, and I enable and I click OK. It will appear. So you see, I enable Excel in my Excel, like it's an example like what we will do if it is Power Pivot. So this is how we enable Power Pivot in Excel. That's it. Simple. It's simple as that. All right. So basically, what we'll do, this point, and this point are just we can you will better understand those when we go in practice, when we do the practice. So I will just highlight the different functions that you can find in DAX. Let's say the main function that, or the basic function that you have in DAX, and we'll go to the practice. So you have the sum function, which is part of the aggregation functions. So the first point is in regard to the aggregation functions. So for the aggregation function, you have sum, you have average, all of those. You have logical functions. So I'm talking about logical function. We have the if init, which is a logical function, if statement. We have int or, which is a logical function. We have date and time functions. We have the today, we have here, we have month, the date. After that, we have text function, and the last one is the filter function that you can find in DAX. So we have those 5 type of functions that you can find in DAX. So those are the basics. Basically, you have more than that, but those, here as a list. So if you write if in DAX, you will see it will appear. If you write today, it will appear. So this is a list of functions that you can find in DAX. We'll use those in practice in few seconds. So let's go and do the practice now. How we write a DAX code, how we So for the DAX code to work, you have in Excel, as I said, you have to enable power pivots, and also you have to add a data set to your model. Even if it was a Power BI, there is already a data set there. You already you import a data set already, so you can start writing the DAX code. But in Excel, it's different. In Excel, as you have many, you can have many in your workbook. So all of those, you can have many tables in your workbook, but all of those tables are maybe not the table that you want to work on using your DAX codes, or creating measure on using DAX. So in Excel, you have to select the data tab on which you want to work. So here, this is for our example, this is our data tab. So to do that, to select the data tab to import it in the model, how do we do it? We select the table like that. We come to Power Pivot here. We come to Power Pivot, and you add the table, the data to your model. So if I click right here, it will open that. It shows error because I already imported the table in my Power Pivot tab. So when you will import your data, it will appear here in the Power Pivot section like that. This is how we import a data table to the model for Power Pivot. That's it. So after doing that, now you can start your modeling. So let's start it. Let's start it now. So let's understand our data sets, because before starting any modeling, you need to understand your data set. What are the variables that you have in your data set? Okay, in our data set, this is a simple data set. You can have more columns, more rows, but this is a simple one. So in our data set, we have a column. We have how many columns? We have 4 columns: fruits, dates, sales, and price. So those, for the first column, which is fruit, it shows different fruits. For the date, it shows different dates. After that, it shows the sales. I mean the quantity, how many sales we've made, and for the price, it shows just the price of one fruit. So one orange cost us 60 cents. That's it. So this is how we can, yeah, we can interpret and we can understand our data set. This is the header. How many rows? We have 15 rows. So now we understand our data set. We want to do a model, for instance. We want to model that data set. Let's say we want to make we want to create a year column, a month column in our data set. Let's say, for instance, how do we do that? Using DAX. Do that. Let me delete. Let me delete here, and so that we do it practically speaking. Let me delete that. Okay. So when I import my data set to my modeling section for my using my DAX, if I want to create a column that I will use to do my modeling and my pivot table and everything, I just come here. You see here we have a add column, right? I can just insert a column like that, and let me give a name to that column. Calculated column. Let me give a name to that column. Oh, sorry. So to give a name to that column, to give a name to that column, I can do that. Just rename. I can just let's say that we want to put the years here, and now based on the date, I want to make the year appear here. So I will use a date time function, right? So that date time function is in our list that I've presented in the PowerPoint. So we have a function called here in DAX. I will use that function, and that function I will select the dates column, close. If I click OK, enter, sorry, you see, we are in 2022. You see, only the years appeared here. Let's say we want to add a month, right? Month. So let's say we want to add month. We can just do that. Let's put that to month. I will write my code here. We have a function in DAX called also month. So basically, just to say, you have just to know that those functions exist, and this is how we use them. So when I select month, it says what? It says I should select the date in which I want to see the months only. So the date is the date column that is here. So I just select, I just write that column, which is that. When I write that column, it will give me only the month. And as it shows already, it's only January for everything. So it will just show first month. That's it. Let's say, for instance, we want to do a calculation. We want to do a multiplication. Let's say we want to have the total of sales, right? We want to have the total of sales, like what we have here. You see, what I've done is I've just used column, sales column, time, price. That's it. And what it will do the multiplication row by row. So it will do this time by this time by this time by this, and you will get, this time by this, price by sales, price by sales, price by sales, and you get the total sales right here. So this is how we use that in a column, or to create a column. Now let's go to the second point, which is, after creating column like that, after creating those columns, let's create, let me delete those so that so you see I've created those columns, right? Those three columns. Sales, total sales here, months, right? So if I come to my data set in my Excel sheet, I refresh like that. All right. And now I want to do some analysis. So to do some analysis, I go to where I go to, using pivot table. So let's create now a pivot table. Now there will be some options when you will create, when you want to create a pivot table to do your analysis. There will be an option, either you use table or range, either you use an external data source, either you use a data model, or for the last point, either you use data from Power BI. So what we want to use is data from model. So we want to use data from our model. So I click here, and now it just asks me, do you want to put it in an existing or create a new sheet? Let's put that Power Pivot in this existing file sheet. Sorry. So see my here. Now let's you see when I click on the table one, you see that I have my different variable: fruit, date, sales, price. But you can see that there are some other tables. Some other columns. The columns that I have modeled in the Power Pivot section. Those tables appear also here. You can see that, right? So it's like I've modeled those like that. So I can say, okay, This will give me the total. Let's say that I want to put in a row, I want to put the dates like here, come back, like that, that in column, fruit here, date here. Let's say I want to put that in row. I'm doing just a manipulation, but you see how I model, how I've created 3 new columns using DAX in the Power Pivot session. This is simple DAX formula, just year, just month, just multiplication. But now let's go to our Power Pivot section again. This is how we create new column in our model. But there is a second way of modeling in DAX, which is by creating what we call measures. So let's see what are the difference between measures and created columns, right? So that you understand it better. So first column, you already know what is creating a new column in our model. So for the definition, this is the definition, but the model is a bit different. The model does not create a new column. It's just like let's use it as reference when you create a function in VBA. When you create a function, you create a function and you use that function when you want. When that function appears when you want to use it only. That's how a measure works also. A measure is just like a function that you create, and it appears only when you want to use it. I put it that way because there is a difference. A column is already there. When you create a column, you see that column in your data model. But a measure, you don't see the results or the output of a measure in your column or in your data model. You only see the result of a measure when you call that measure only. So this is as for one difference. Second difference is like between measure and column. When you create a column in your data set, in terms of storage, it will take more space. But a measure does not take space. It will only take space when it will be called in a calculation. That's it. So in terms of which one do you prefer? Sometimes it's better to use measure instead of creating a column that we've done. In terms of context of calculation, columns works at a row level, which means what? Which means that as you saw here, when I created new columns, you see that this total only do this time this to get this result. This time this to get this result. So this is a column. This is how columns calculated or created work. But a measure does not work like that. We create a new measure. It's an aggregation. A measure is just an aggregate. It doesn't use mobile unless you write a special measure to do that, but it doesn't work like that. So a measure works in filter, in filters, in aggregation, and it evaluates, I already said, in real time when you cut only. And in Excel, you can manipulate, measure by using slicer, by using everything. I mean, when we will do a real-time project and we'll do a modeling, you will see how it works, basically. But now let's create a measure. Let's see. Let's create a measure in Excel. Let's see how we do it. So in Excel, we can create. We have two ways. Uh, yeah, two main way of creating a measure. We can create a measure from here directly. So to create a measure, I have just to name that measure below here. Let's say that I want to create a new measure right here, and I want to in that cell right here. This is where we create a measure. We don't create a measure up here. We create it below here. So let's say I want to create a new measure in that cell. I have to name that measure. Let's say we call it sum total total sales equal, and let's use an aggregate function. Let's use a sum function. But you see, if I write equal like that, it won't work. To create a measure, you have to put you have to put point like that, equal, and now you write your measure. This is how we recognize measure. That equal sum. You see how I'm doing it? And now I want to sum up what, let's say, total price in my model. So I want to sum up total price. So I select total price up here and I close it. You see, you don't see, we've created a measure like that. This is a measure that we've created. You see that it's just an aggregate. It's not row by row or nothing. No, it does not take much space like this one. We've just created a measure like that. This is one way of creating a measure directly there. Second way of creating a measure is just we select the pivot table that we've made, and up here we click on add measure like that. We give a name to that measure. Let's say how we will call that measure. Total. Let's say total price for orange only. Okay. And now let's use a filter to do it, because you see we have many fruits. We have many fruits in our data set. But what I want is total price only for orange, right? So I need to use a filter function to give that result for orange. So what I will do is, like, I can either say, okay, let's use an if statement. If logical, if which is the column, do what? Do sum of what? Do sum of their sorry, total sales. If not, if it is not orange, give 0. That's it. And when we click OK, I guess I have nothing. Somewhere, this measure is evaluated. Continue with editing. I'll miss something. Sorry. Let me structure it so that I see it well. Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. So we've created the measure for orange right here. So now, let's say, let me remove here. Let me remove this one. Okay, there is an error somewhere. I mean, there is an error in my measure. So when you have an error in your measure, this is how it looks like. However, because it can be because there is a problem in your code, or let me see, table fruits, table total sales. Okay, let's I guess it's 2 dots. Or sometimes I guess it's 2 dots. Sometimes you can make an error somewhere. This measure is invalid content is error will continue to reset the value next check the dots formula. Argument 3, 1, 2, 3. Total sales. Let me take the total price to see. No, but yeah, we'll come to that. Okay, definitely we can come down on that. Okay, let's use another function. All right, so we will use a calculate function to do that. So total and the filter will be only, let's say, fruits, but you will see what will happen if I do like that. Orange. Okay, you see what happened here. I just took the value. I mean, I just what I've done is I've done the calculation based only on the parameter for orange, right? So what happened is like it will set the value. If I choose that measure as total price for orange, it will assign to all the other fruits the same value like for orange also. So this is orange value basically. that you see here is also orange value, because that measure only, in that measure, as you can see, which is in that measure, I only filter on orange for fruits. So I've used a filter to say, okay, give me only value for orange. But what I did not say is like, I did not put an if. This is what I was trying to do, but yeah. Put an if formula to say if it is not orange, give 0 to that. Basically, we'll do that. Okay, now let's do an example of I don't know, maybe. Okay, so this is how we create. First, this is how we create a DAX function here. Just adding it. This is how we create a measure from here, instead of coming directly to the model site and creating the measure right here. This is basically the two ways. And also, let me check if there is another way, but I don't think so. Okay, this is basically the two main ways of creating a measure using coming from our data model, or I mean coming from here in the Power Pivot fields, or coming or using direct here. That's it. And if you want to use this side, this is how you write your measure. That's equal, and you write the function. If you want to do it using this side, there is, I mean, no need to, you don't put the that, it's just equal. You have just to name your measure, and that's it. So let's do another example for the measure. Okay, I guess we can for those measure, and we can stop on that. And yeah, we can stop on that. We'll go deep, because this is a huge subject to cover. But yeah, this is the basis basically. So Q&A section. Is there any question on what we saw? Because I guess we are out of time, so already, yeah, out of time. Is there any question? Let me recall the summary. In summary, what we saw was how to make power pivots appears, enable power pivots, how to load data in your model, in your data model. The third point. Fourth point was the third point was how to create column basically in the data model, and the last point was how to create measure. And we saw the ways of creating measure. The rest will be how to use those functions to do the modeling, but those are for other section. Basically, what we cover is just an overview of everything, VBA and DAX. For the project, we will see a big model, like yeah, we'll see big model, but yeah. So is there any question?
Thank you so much, Ridolph. Just to retrieve.
Sorry.
Okay.
Did you see my screen? Did you see my? I mean,
yeah.
Can you see my screen currently?
No. You're not sharing at present, but you shared up till when you before you make the last set of remarks. You gave a summary. So at that point where you were giving the summary, you are no longer sharing your
Ah,
Excel
okay, okay, okay.
page.
Because I thought I wasn't sharing my screen.
No, no, you did, you
Okay,
did, you
okay,
did.
okay.
Just
Yes.
that
Yeah.
for someone who have not been probably who did not take week 3 courses ahead of this class, a lot of things may appear technical, but they are just the basics. So of course, this session is recorded, and I'll check through to be sure the record were not breaking because of the network challenges I had back end. Nevertheless, we'll upload what has been taught here on our YouTube page as we have done with previous classes for you to have a lifetime access to. Thank you so much, Rudolph. Do we still have anyone with a question? I know we are tired. It's not easy learning
Yeah, I
like two
guess.
hours.
Yeah,
Uh,
because those are two big subjects, and
yeah, yeah, they are
to
quite
be honest,
technical,
yeah,
but I
yeah, to be
enjoyed it
honest,
actually. I enjoyed it.
to
I
be honest,
enjoyed
if
it.
that's we can do another section for that, specially
Yeah,
where we will go from scratch in one project, and
yeah,
also with a big data sets, so
yeah.
that you
So,
understand better how we use
yeah,
calculate, how we use filter,
yeah,
everything. Because here I've just used two function, sum and calculate, and
yeah.
just simply because the data set I've just created a quick data set. So yeah, quick
Yes,
data
yes.
set
But
with
that
fruits,
basic,
but we can use
that
a
that basic
yes,
understanding is very necessary, Rudolph. Very, very. So, so what we'll
definitely.
just do, which we'll adopt into the new year. Of course, Rudolph is part of our faculty. He's not is a guest for tonight. However, he's part of our faculty and is around for as long as he's here with us, at AMG. So what I'm saying is that we can always have access to such an expertise as Rudolph has shared with us tonight. And just as I stated earlier, in case you find yourself in any of these tasks in real time, maybe you have an assessment you don't understand, you have a job, you have a side gig, you need support. That's part of why this community exists. So don't keep your Excel challenges to yourself. Open up, share in the community, whether in the general community, whenever it's opened, or in your cohort community, which is permanently opened, except we have a specific announcement that we don't want your feedbacks to club together, because you can only unlike Telegram, where you can you know, tag multiple stuffs. Yeah, in WhatsApp is just one. I don't know if it has been upgraded. So we normally lock it in the cohort community once in a while, as you all know. Thank you so much, Rudolph, once again. Thank you. We personally appreciate this, and the community appreciate this. Of course, as I earlier stated from the beginning, macros, VBA, and DAX are technical side of Excel. I know some of you are wondering, are we in a coding class? I know someone may have thought about that earlier today. Are we doing coding? But man, Excel is broad. Excel is wide.
Yes,
So,
yes, definitely.
and this is like this topic Rudolph taught tonight is like the most crucial aspect of Excel. And that is why we left it for the third week. The reason is because when you understand this, even I can say to a very great extent, I've not done much with VBA over the years because I've not really worked on some sophisticated projects as he had, but for macros, I've done some things with macros in the past, even though, as I said, VBA is the language of macro, So, but for DAX measures, of course, if you have worked on Power BI as you will learn in subsequent editions. For example, we have our Marathon Mastery Program running from next month. The announcement for that will start in the new week. For some of us that we join, we will have specifically advanced class. So that particular program is not for anyone that is basic. So that's why we've run this. And anyone that have taken this serious to an extent, you are, let me say, qualified to be in that class. But if you want to still join to have an access, you can still join when the announcement comes out. Nevertheless, it's gonna be The advanced Excel session there will be something around this, and then we'll go into SQL and end it with Power BI. So when we are in Power BI, Rodolphe will still be there, and DAX measures will be a key component of it aside from the visualization aspect. So when it comes to Power BI, of course, we look at Power Query, the whole DAX measure that you need, and then the visualization aspect of Power BI. So there's a lot to learn within the community, and that's why I encourage people, once you come, when you join like this, make sure you are around to catch up with subsequent trainings and events that we have within the community. And what we will look forward to do in subsequent months as a community is to give one of free courses like this. So we could just come together on a weekend and do 2 hours of macros or VBA only. We come again on another weekend, we do 2 hours, maybe strictly of Excel chart as a refresher, because this skill has to continue. You have to keep refreshing yourself so that you don't forget them, and you need to keep applying your knowledge and skills to data and all that so that you can gain mastery. It's a road. That's why we call it road to mastery project. Mastery is not attained in a day. As I said, Rodolphe now knows more than 7 programming languages. If you ask me how many programming languages I know, maybe 1 or 2, and I can say I'm still at the beginners or probably intermediate of some of these languages. So it's about practice. Once you use and use and use and work on multiple projects, you gain mastery. And then when they wake you up in your dream, you can always use those skills. So that's just it. And I'm grateful to our facilitator tonight for the awesome session. And thank you all for joining. And thank you for that feedback, Jerry. Thank you for everyone that has joined. Please go and drink water if you have not taken water. It's been a technical night and quite advanced night from all the ones we've had in the previous weeks. Please get a bottle of water and just cool off the tension. Just cool off the tension, and you will catch up with the recorded classes. So just on a final note, do you have anyone that have a question? We are proceeding to week 4. Of course, by tomorrow, we expect all participants to have completed your interactive sales dashboard. Make it very dynamic. We are watching back end to see your submissions. And then once you do it patiently and you get it right this week, your capstone project next week will be easier to accomplish within the time frame. You understand? So please take your time, learn all the skills, refer to all the videos, practice the task. And by the end of next week, you can look inwards and say, yes, I'm now an Excel guru. Yes, a guru at a level, maybe level 2 guru or level 3 guru. Some of us may be at level 5, level 6. There are some at level 10. So this knowledge, there's no know it all. You are at a level, and the more you practice, the more you work on project, you keep growing your competencies and expertise. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. On this note, we'll just draw a curtain and call it a night, and then we'll continue interactions across the various platforms that we used to engage. Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Rudolph, thank you once again. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, everyone. We'll catch up. I've done the regular closeout earlier, so I'm not going to do it again. You can refer to the program guide for what is coming next week. I've shared that earlier. Please refer to it for preparation, but tomorrow is your practice. So please take your time and engage the data set that has been provided. Do your dashboard. We look forward to your submission. And if you are still far behind, you can still catch up. Please don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Mastery is possible. Do not give up. Thank you. And for those who joined this class for the first time, we recognize you as well. Thank you for joining. Have a pleasant week ahead. Yeah, thank you.